Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Amanda Lamb. In today's deep dive conversation with WRAL's hidden history reporter, Heather Leah, we're going to talk about Christmas mysteries. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So this is a really fun topic. I'm excited to get to do some of these lighter shows over the holidays. You know, the holidays are such a magical time of year, and stories that have a little bit of mystery with them seem to go hand in hand with that theme of magic. So first of all, tell me about the lit Christmas tree over the Beltline in Raleigh. Where is it? What does it look like? And it appears to be tiny, but it's not so tiny, correct?
Correct. Yes. So I grew up in Raleigh, and so all of my Christmases have been here in Raleigh. And when we would drive on the Beltline underneath, it's near the Six Forks Road exit, there was always this little Christmas tree. We called it the little Christmas tree, at least, because it looks very tiny, and it's hanging way up in the air over the Beltline. And there was a time where that wall was not there on the Beltline, and so you could just see this tree hanging up over the Beltline, and it's there all year long, by the way. It's not just there during the holidays. And we just always wondered about the origins of that tree. We would point at it every time we drove past. My mom and I, as a kid, I have many memories of driving under that tree on the Beltline and going, why is that there? Who put that there? And
So at some point you were like, okay, I want to learn more about this. So what did you find out about this tradition and who started it and why?
Yeah, so I, again, always been curious about this little Christmas tree. So I finally looked into what address the tree is hanging over, contacted the owner and asked them for an interview. And they were more than excited to tell me about the little Christmas tree. And it turns out the little Christmas tree has been up there since 1988, I believe. So it's been up there since the 80s, which makes sense why it's just been a constant part of my life. And it hangs up all year long. And he answered all my questions. He told me it's hanging about 40 feet or more up in the air. So that's why it looks so small. But it's a full-size Christmas tree. If you've ever seen it when you're driving down the Beltline, it is quite a mystery, especially when it's not the holidays, why there's a Christmas tree up there. It would also change colors sometimes. Like sometimes it looked like a regular Christmas tree. Other times it looked like it was three colors. It looked like maybe the American flag, red, white, and blue. Other times it would be lit up like college colors, and we could never figure out like what is the origin of this tree.
And so basically, and what I learned from reading some of your reporting on this is that they changed the colors on the tree based on what was happening in their family's life, right?
Yes, and you would just never know that that's why the tree is up there changing colors, that it's telling the story of the family as his own children were growing up. And he hung this up as a tradition, again, starting decades ago, as something his family could enjoy. And it was like a deeply personal thing that he's sharing with the community. And at first, he had no idea, like, this era of mystery is, like, forming around this tree. A lot of people in Raleigh really wanted to know the story behind this tree.
How in the world? Well, I guess he leaves it out there because it would be too hard to bring it in every year. But how does he get the lights on it?
Yeah, so he described this to me that originally it was a real tree. So a long, long time ago, he took a real tree, decorated it, and hoisted it up in the air using a pulley system. And at that time, it was kind of perfect because that wall that's there now, that brick wall, that wasn't there. And so you could just look straight up the hill and then see this tree at the top. But eventually, he kind of got smart because putting a real tree up there, that's a lot of work. You have to be able to like take it down and redecorate it and do things to it. I'm sure eventually it would die. So he made a tree, or either made it or had it commissioned. But he had like a
custom tree.
Like a custom tree.
Yeah.
And so it looks different now if you look at it. I remember when it was a real tree, and now it looks more like a twirl of metal. But you can't really tell when you're looking up and it's just all lit up.
And I think one year I read there, or maybe a couple years, another neighbor tried to do the same thing.
Yes. So I've actually seen two other little Christmas trees. And again, it's not actually little. It just looks little. There was another one on the other side of the Beltline that started up one year, and I remember seeing that one too. And, my mom and I are driving past, and we look at the little Christmas tree like always, and then we see there's another little Christmas tree on the other side of the Beltline. And they were pretty close to each other, so if you're driving down one direction on the Beltline, you could see both of them. And so, yeah, his neighbor also had a little Christmas tree, which became another whole mystery. And then I actually found a third little Christmas tree driving through Raleigh one day. And it wasn't off the Beltline. It was just off like a main road. I actually don't remember what road, but I just saw it when I was driving by and I was like, another one.
So they started kind of a tradition, and I think you mentioned it, but what did this family, they obviously didn't know what kinds of reaction they'd get, but they've actually received a lot of letters of gratitude. Tell me about that.
Oh gosh, yes. It to me, this really goes to show that when you do something that seems small and meaningful to you, sometimes you impact the community in an unexpected way. And isn't that a very Christmassy or holiday-y feel that, when you do something small and meaningful, it can make these ripple effects. And that's what their tree did. And yeah, like sometimes they had it red, white, and blue because they have family who was in the military, and so they were supporting them. Other times they lit it up to support like their child had gotten into college, and so they put up the college colors. And so you're really seeing the story of this family's life. Well, this tree has been such a mystery and like a centerpiece for Raleigh. You see this tree that other families are really touched by just seeing that little tree up there, and they would send letters. And he said he's gotten so many letters from people who I guess figured out what address the tree was hanging over and wanted to let him know how much it's meant to them, including like teachers and just, people who were just really moved by this spirit of Christmas.
Right. And just driving down the Beltline and just feeling, gratitude that somebody did this, that somebody made this effort.
It's a little thing that makes Raleigh.
That's great. Well, we will be right back after the break with more from Heather on another holiday mystery. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm talking with Heather Leah about Christmas mysteries. So there was something back in the 1960s in Raleigh called the Christmas Village. It was very popular, almost too popular, I understand. Drew a lot of people, a lot of traffic. Tell me about that. What was it like and who was behind it?
So if you were in Raleigh in the 1960s, the big holiday light display that you would want to go see is the Cross Family light display. My family, I'm obviously too young to remember it, but my mother saw it, my grandmother saw it, and it was off Bern Avenue. And so you would drive down there, and the lights, of course, kind of like the popular lights today, were so popular that the traffic would just back up for, quite a ways down the road, kind of holding up traffic. Probably not as much traffic as today because Raleigh was a little bit smaller in the 60s, but this was just a beloved tradition. And part of the lights were that they had these little children's size a house and then a church, and I believe they were handmade. They are beautiful and cute, and you could go inside them, and the kids like to actually go play in the yard and go into the house and the church.
So when the crosses eventually passed, the memorabilia was sold off. But there is still a tiny Christmas house, kind of a remnant of that display on Bern Avenue. And you probably wouldn't recognize this unless you knew the story.
No. Oh, I get chills thinking of it because I knew the story, but I didn't know anything was left at that house. Now, I will add later, there are some pieces of the cross display left, and we will talk about that. But I didn't realize there were any left at the house. And one day I just got curious, and I went on Google Maps, and I went to the satellite view, down to the street view, and I checked the house that I knew used to be the Cross family home, and I saw a little church, like a little church sitting on their property. And I went on Facebook, and I shared the screenshot. I said, "Is this it? Is this it?" And all the people who, of course, have lived in Raleigh since the 60s were like, that's the Cross family church. That's their little church. And so they had a church, and they had a little dollhouse. And
so these were tiny houses for kids.
Yeah.
They were part of the display.
Right. They were small. They were part of the display. And there's a little remnant of it standing there on the street corner of New Bern Avenue and where the Cross family home was. You can see it there. And so I drove there to see if it was still there. And it was. And it was thrilling for me because I've heard so much about how much people loved this display. And to be able to see a piece of it still standing right where it used to stand, very special.
And so this is no longer the Cross family tradition, but there's another family, right, that resurrected some of this, and they have a lot of the original pieces.
They do. So first of all, I just want to say, the little remnant that's left on the Cross family land, it's very special to see that where it once stood. And I do think if you were driving by, you would just wonder, what is that little house over there? But that is what that is if you ever see it. And then another family, a lot of their display pieces were put into like an estate sale. And there's a family that runs a light show called Happyland Christmas Lights. And for many years, Happyland became kind of one of the biggest light displays in the Raleigh area. In fact, they won the Great Christmas Light Fight. And part of the reason they won is because back when that family passed away, Bobby Moore, who runs Happyland, he knew those lights. He had grown up seeing them. And he said, I want to have every piece of that Christmas display that you have left. And so they bought all of it. So they have the Nativity and they have the carolers. And they're these beautiful, they're about as tall as a person. They're probably taller than me. And most of them had been destroyed. I mean, some of them were ground down almost to powder. And they were faded. I mean, they were from the 1960s. And Jan Moore, Bobby's wife, she lovingly restored them.
Wow.
These beautiful Cross family carolers and the Nativity, and they're absolutely beautiful. Of course, they're classic. Restored them, pieced them together piece by piece, gluing them together, and then painting them again so that the colors would shine again. And it's the centerpiece of Happyland Christmas Lights. And they told me that they have people who drive to Happyland who see those pieces and remember them from the Cross family lights and just break down into tears. Well, I saw this firsthand. I went there and brought my grandmother. And of course, my grandmother had lived in Raleigh for 92 years. So she certainly saw the Cross family lights every year when she was young. And she saw the pieces that were from the Cross family display there at the center of Happyland. And I mean, she started to cry because it just brought back her Christmases from long ago. And it was beautiful.
That sounds great. So it's like, in a way, this Christmas village from the 1960s still lives on, just in a new way. Yes,
absolutely. It's again, another little piece of, to me, kind of special things that make Raleigh. As someone who's lived here my whole life and have a special story that I can tell about Raleigh Christmas.
Heather, thank you so much for unraveling these Christmas mysteries, and thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and making us a part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email that's waiting in your inbox every morning with Triangle News, events, and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.